we're back again, episode 3 this time. We're covering episodes 12 through 19, the second part of the Demon Hidden in the Mist for Naruto. This is Team 7. I'm Logan. I'm accompanied by Zach and Asher, as always. And let's just get right into it. So, little brief overview. You know, we left off where the first battle had finished, and they believed that Zabuza had been killed, and it turned out to not be the case. So they did some training. We see our protagonists go and do a fair amount, and they get a lot better. We see some chakra control, and we see some development of jutsu, and we get some world development of what that jutsu looks like, some good fighting, and it all wraps up. I think that everything goes the way that you kind of hope it goes. You know, it's such a good arc, and it capped it off well. And we're gonna get right into it. So I think let's just go back real quick without me accidentally playing an episode. Um, sorry.
Hey, do you all know why I texted you and said that I'm Ariana Grande now?
No, I don't. But I'm trying to get back where we were. So we started on episode 12, and that's just where the trainings happened. So
Yeah.
let's go from there. Ariana Grande, is that pertinent to now?
Well, she has that song called No Tears Left to Cry. And after that episode 19, I was inconsolable for like 45 minutes, I think.
Like actual tears?
I did cry. I cry very easily, but yes, I did cry actual tears on 2 occasions in episodes 18 and 19. Separate occasions.
I love that. So overall impressions, we've done the entire arc now. We've gotten a glimpse into, you know, the nine-tailed fox as it is sealed in Naruto. And you know, we get a little glimpse at the first episode with Mizuki. But nothing like what we saw with this fight with Haku, which we have learned since the last episode that the boy's name is Haku. So let's talk about it. What would you guys think? Just overarching. You can bring up specifics if you want. Just whatever you're feeling. Z, what do you think?
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When episode 12 started and Naruto's just kind of like snoozing in the woods, and you see this like pretty character walking up towards him, I'm just like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And then apparently he starts like contemplating choking Naruto, killing the kid while he's sleeping. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing, girl? And I was fully confused with Naruto, because at the end when Haku walks away, she's like, by the way, I'm a boy. And he's like, what?
I love how he even says she. I
know.
He says she even though he knows. Yeah, so I love that you brought that up. I actually checked in the manga to see if that was what he did. That was really intriguing to me to watch again. I don't know why, it just like stuck out that I was like, he started to choke and then decided not to. So I went and looked in one of the books I have, and sure enough, he walks up, gives every implication that he's going to do it, and then pulls away and wakes him up. It's an interesting choice by Kishimoto for sure. I was definitely going to ask if you guys were fooled, if you guys thought that Haku was a girl, if you put 2 and 2 together, like immediately as soon as you saw Haku in the forest, were you like, that's the same person? You know, it's tough for me.
Because whenever Haku was originally introduced with the mask, it's a similar outfit. He's not in the outfit he battles with Sasuke at the beginning. And I was like, oh wait, maybe it's a girl with a mask. You know, I was like, maybe this maybe it was a girl, you know. But anyways, I kind of figured it would be, because that's kind of where we kind of left off in a way. I don't know, but I was like, I knew Zabuza was coming back, you know, I just trust issues with the show. I'm
Yeah.
not even fully convinced he's not going to come back again. But we'll see. I mean, that was a pretty uh intense exit, if you will. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely had my suspicions. But then he started calling her a girl, and I was like, okay, yeah, this might be a new character. Who is this? But I was fooled, man. I was
That's great.
fooled.
I love that. What about you, Asher?
Overall, like this whole arc here is pretty fantastic. I'm not sure what this is about, what this says about me, but I still get surprised every time something like really dark is happening. And I think it's because they're younger and I
Yeah.
just expect a little bit more of like kids show stuff, and it's proven to me time and time again that that's not going to be the case. But I guess with Trigun and Full Metal, they're a little bit older. I think in Trigun he's actually an adult, but um, yeah, is it like episode 12 so dark, so quick.
Yeah.
I thought the subtitles are really funny when Naruto says, "What are you saying, sis?"
Yeah.
I don't know why that part stuck out to me. It was just funny, but I did remember from my first watch, because I'm remembering like bits and pieces, because I have seen up to this point and not too far into the tuning exams. I did remember upon starting episode 12 that was Haku, so
Okay.
I wasn't too surprised, but it kind of freed up my mind to notice some other like funny things that were happening, I guess,
Yeah.
in that part. So yeah, it's good though. I mean, the whole arc with Sasuke, and I mean every character gets so much development. It just kind of like branches out and
No,
just no, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say not a lot for Sakura, but that was it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, anyway, still a huge fan, but um I liked that as soon as the show started to feel like, okay, we're in Dragon Ball Z territory of way too much explanation about our abilities and not actually fighting, then it starts the fight or goes in another direction. So I think I mentioned that last week, but the flow is really good.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a lot of emotions.
yeah. Um yeah, most of the second part of the arc we are spending on the bridge in the fight. There's a lot. I think that there's a lot of I think we're probably seeing like the first time in the series that there's a lot of reused assets and reused storytelling to kind of beef up the episode so that it extends the amount of episodes, which is just money making on their end. Because like I think in 13, maybe 14, we get like a 8-minute recap, which
Yeah.
was I'm just guessing that it was a combination of it was either one or two things at the same time. Uh Either they needed to fill time to make more episodes, which totally possible, or the series was starting to really catch on. And I don't know how this development works. I don't know how many episodes out in front they are or were.
Oh, so they might have
But
been catching like some people up from
yeah,
viewership or something. Yeah.
yeah, and because it was basically a series update. It told you everything that happened from episode 1 up to 14, 13, whatever it was. I think it might have been 13, but um yeah, I think that would be my only complaint about pacing. Was it just there were some parts that it was like, okay, I could probably fast forward through this if I needed to. But overall, I think that it's a great introductory arc to what you can expect, and that Naruto-esque talk no jutsu of, and you'll become more familiar with that, of Naruto's empathy for others. And sorry, I've got a catch in my throat right now.
No, that was a cool kind of section of these episodes too, because I could have seen him still being kind of a like punk ass kid and just
Mhm.
being like telling Inari, like, is it Inaru? Inari?
Inari.
Yeah, Inari. I'm getting him confused with a name in Destiny. Good, this is gonna happen a lot. But basically, he could have just been like, "Hey, like, suck it up," like I did, and
Mhm.
not really given him any of that like empathy or understanding. But instead, he like really turns around and apologizes, like a real
Yeah.
man. The next day, it's cool. It's
I
good
wrote that
stuff.
down too because in episode 12, I mean, he calls him a coward,
Hmm.
and I'm like, yo, how do you call that kid a coward after the story we heard from the bridge builder? I'm like, this kid's been through a ton, and yeah, you might have too. You might have, had your fair share of challenges or whatever, but he's also younger than you, and you're gonna call him a coward when he doesn't want to die the same death that his father did, or lose his mom or the bridge builder or whoever, you know. But that was aside from the battle of this entire arc and specifically the set of episodes we watched for this episode. I love that relationship and how it grew, you know, um, throughout these episodes because like you said, Asher, like he actually owned up to like saying, "Hey, I didn't mean to call you that. Like I'm dealing with this stuff too.
Hmm.
You know, you have a chance to be brave. It's time to be brave." Um, and he inspires that kid to freaking get the entire village, you know, and have the back of the Team Seven and Kakashi, and it's like, you know, that's a cool way to walk through that relationship with two kids, Um, but yeah, I going back to what you were saying, Logan, as well about the recap. I feel like that kind of makes sense because speaking of the Inari and Naruto um, relationship in episode 13, Naruto has two like big hero entrances. Like he comes in at the right moment and like saves the day, if you will. The first one more than the second one. But I feel like maybe in the Japanese culture when this was coming out, like that was probably a big deal. People were all talking about like, dude, you gotta watch this show. This kid is freaking, you know, he's making moves, and that might be why. Because I made a note in episode 14 about the 8-minute recap. So, but yeah, he like comes in and saves the day with Inari and those two thugs that were trying to take his mom hostage. And Inari's kind of getting these glimpses of like, okay, he might be cold and hurting about something, but he at least has my back and he's going to save me and my mom, and that means something. So it was just cool to see how that developed throughout
Yeah,
these episodes.
I did
I
put
think
in my notes that these kids are growing up quick.
I think that two things. I think one, Zach has to be the biggest Inari fan in the world. There's no one else that feels as strongly about Inari as Zach, which is totally fine. I'm just giving you some crap about it, but I think that they also do a good job, or well, good job is relative, but they do make an effort of explaining that while they are young, they are ninja and they are fully trained shinobi, and um, that means that they're not children anymore, and that they make decisions for themselves, and they make decisions rationally, and all this stuff that they kind of hear them talking about a little bit whenever I think Inari's mom was concerned about Naruto sleeping in the forest. And which is an interesting dynamic. I think that there's a lot expected of them at an early age. I think that that's why they're allowed to graduate from the academy at the age that they're at and expected to do missions. Obviously, this one is way outside the scope that team should ever have, and
Yeah, for real.
and obviously that kind of became a thing because of the situation for Tazuna. But luckily, Team 7 could handle it. We get to see the first bit of Sharingan usage from Sasuke. And did that surprise you guys at all? Did you know that he was going to get Sharingan, or was that surprising to you? What were your all's thoughts?
I
It
think
I'll say real quick.
Both at the same time.
Okay, 1, 2. Okay, it made sense because they had mentioned something about the Uchiha clan earlier, but it was another thing I forgot from my first watch through, and it was very surprising the first time I watched it. So that was all I was going to say.
I was just gonna say it was very cool the way that they introduced the Sharingan in the last episodes, and then seeing how that isn't something I thought maybe Kakashi did some like step by step mission to like earn his Sharingan, but finding out that this is a blood trait that they inherit or are born with, that to me was way cooler than it could have ever been. I thought that was the perfect way to explain it and make it to where it's not something that you can earn. You're destined to be who you are with that, and it's up to you to learn how to use it, to perfect it, to figure out whatever it is. And it challenges other cultures, like Haku's story. When she was freaking beat by her mom for just playing with water, and she didn't even know what to do. And the
Haku
mom
is
just
a
didn't
boy.
want to.
You know that.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, my bad. Yeah,
they got us all confused over here.
Yeah,
I'll forever say she. I don't know why. But yeah, Haku's origin story with his Sharingan, and even that line that Zabuza says, or Haku says to Zabuza, it gave me chills when he was like, "Hey, our eyes are the same," and he was just like, I've found a weapon, which is what we find out that he trained him up to be, you know. But for Sasuke to find his was a pretty cool moment for me. As a first time watch through, I was like, oh shoot, this kid is, you know, he's got skills. We already know Naruto has like this sleeping beast in his chest, and now Sasuke has something else that kind of, raises up his bar of you know destiny and what we're going to see in the future. Um, I thought that was a super cool way to introduce it all and explain it. It was a nice surprise for me.
Yeah, the KK Genkai, sorry, let me say that again. KK Genkai aspect to the story is really interesting of how different chakra types can kind of be melded together to create something like the Sharingan or like his ice usage, because ice usage was his KK Genkai, Haku's. And you don't really see that a lot because mixing air and water is you have to be born with it, and no one else that I know of in the show has that KK Genkai. Typically it's just family inherited. There are some situations that are different that you guys will learn about, but for now, I mean, it's just an incredible aspect to the story that makes the characters unique. And yeah, I really dig it. I mean, we've just scratched the surface with the Sharingan and what that can develop into and what it can do. And if you guys have any questions about like what all it can do, it depends on the question, but I might be able to answer it. But there's just a whole world of information pertaining to the Sharingan eyes and what they can do, that we're just scratching the surface of.
Well, I was gonna say, Zach, I wouldn't care if you asked, but I feel like it's too early to ask too many questions about it. And I like living in the mystery of it a little bit, at least for now. But I feel like there's gonna be something later, or soon later, that I'll be like, okay, how does that work? But yeah, the trait thing is really cool. I mean, it kind of put, for some reason, it made me think of playing a game like Skyrim or something, where you have these like kind of, what do you call it, like a constellation that you're born under, and that's like your kind of decides some ability that you get throughout the game that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or something
Right.
I'm relating a lot of this to video games, obviously, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool. All the abilities and stuff are very unique to me as far as like other anime and things that I've seen, and the way they explain is good and thorough, and it's fun, and it's doesn't get drug out for too long. So I dig.
Well, the thing that I love the most about it and why it was so intriguing to me, because I feel the same way. Like I've never seen something where you're kind of inheriting, this ability. It's usually earned or stumbled upon or and that brings all of its own challenges. It's like, yeah, the villain can earn it just as much as the hero can, and it depends on who gets to it first or whatever. But this is like who you are, you're born with it, and it's up to you to choose how you use it, what you do with it. But the detail about that for me, that kind of, I don't know, is the coolest is like, specifically for like Haku, we saw an entire origin story of like how they did use it, right?
Mhm.
Like instead of just some quest that, I went and found this, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, like everybody does that and everything. But it's like, no, how did it affect you when you were growing up? Like what did you do with it along the way? And that's such a cool way to be hopeful about future stories down the road. I just feel like that's more intriguing to me. I love that about it.
That it makes me excited, and I'm hoping that we get more of like Kakashi's story as well. Because I feel like it was at the end of episode 15, because I couldn't remember anything that Kakashi did as far as that bridge battle, but I put a note here, where does Kakashi go from here skill wise? And then right under that I put, we need a special attack, which totally ended up happening. I mean, with the hounds first of all, and then the lightning, I was like, what in the world? Like this dude, there's a split second, I think, in that episode and maybe part of episode 16 where I was like, maybe we've seen all that we will see from Kakashi, and he's more of a coach at this point and has to kind of show them their abilities. But then he pulls some craziness out of there. I did have questions about that because he had a scroll thing, right?
Yeah.
And then,
So
yeah, go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say, well, Naruto also had that scroll, but he used that to like learn a jutsu really quickly, and that felt like a different situation, maybe. Not to get too in the weeds of the world building necessarily, but it seemed like Kakashi like used it somehow rather than, I don't know. How does that work? If you can explain it this early, I mean.
The scroll that you're referring to, just for anyone watching, listening, the scroll that you're referring to is the scroll that Naruto had in the Forest of Death. Sorry, I don't know if he was in the Forest of Death at that point, but he was in the forest, and had the scroll that ultimately taught him the forbidden jutsu, the multi-shadow clone jutsu. That scroll, to my knowledge, again, if you're a Naruto expert listening, watching, please let me know I'm wrong. To my knowledge, that is a scroll that just had forbidden jutsu that explained how to do it or something that unlocked that. What you see from Kakashi is a summoning jutsu scroll. So we will get more of this hundreds of episodes down the line, that explains in detail about summoning. But what I can tell you now is that is a contract between himself and whatever is being summoned. So in this case, his ninja dogs, which are real dogs in a real spot that have been summoned and then moved to another spot upon summoning. So they are very real. That's not a shadow clone or anything. That's real. So that is sealed by blood. You saw he'll wipe his chest where he got cut, and then he put it across the scroll. So that's what activates it, because it's blood bound. And like I said, we'll get way more of this, but it's something that's not really explained right now. But I do think that it doesn't, one, hurt your experience watching. Two, I think that it's something that isn't explained that definitely could have been now. and it wouldn't have changed any trajectory of the show, so I don't really mind telling you. But
Interesting.
yeah, so they are different. They're used for different things. That's about the only real usage that we get out of scrolls, really, is summoning and then is just like locked information. Um, yeah, I think that the ninja dogs are really cool. I like them a lot. I think that it's just a cool aspect to Kakashi. The lightning blade, the jutsu that we saw there, he did call it lightning blade, I believe, like once.
Yeah, that
And
was
that
wild.
we will get more information on that as well. And how that works and how that's specific to Kakashi and all that. So really cool stuff. I think that I don't really mind telling you guys either that this is I've said this about everything, but
We're
in this
scratching the
first season,
surface.
like, dude, like, yes, where do we go from here with Kakashi? Like, just wait. Like, where do we go with all the characters is great. There's always new heights that they're reaching and what they can achieve. So
Even
uh
Sakura, because I feel
right.
like they're doing her dirty so far.
Yeah, so that's something that kind of gets the fan base a little split is
Mm.
Kishimoto's writing of Sakura and how she's utilized or not utilized. Um she does get development. I like Sakura. And I will say, and I can't, gosh, you
Don't
guys
just
just
don't just don't.
no, 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 no. This is fine. I don't want to send you the poll, but there is currently a poll going around, like an official poll from Studio Perry, I believe. The people who did the animation for this of your favorite Naruto character, and she is currently sitting at 3,
Hmm.
Wow.
Out
which I
of
think
probably
is
like a lot more
10.
characters that we. Oh, how many?
Oh, so 10 is the poll. Like you
Okay,
if
gotcha.
it's only showing top 10. But yes, it's for the entire series from 1 to the end of Shippuden and
Hmm.
however many episodes. So um there's development there. There's definitely a ton of people that absolutely adore her. But in this first arc especially, she is not utilized. Just really not at all. It's a story of Naruto and Sasuke and the battle between Zabuza and Kakashi. I think just shows you a lot of high level ninja. And even at that, so great point. The super high level Jonin ninja between Kakashi and Zabuza, and they both used Shadow Clone Jutsu and only developed 8 to 10 each. And you remember in the first episode, Naruto pumped out like 100 or plus.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like that shows you the level that Naruto can achieve even now without any training and why that jutsu was ultimately forbidden. So yeah, we get to see the nine-tailed fox kind of ooze out a little bit in this fight as well, which I think is
Ooh.
also a great example of how they really spent their money on specific frames, and you could tell that the animation got a lot more smooth and better whenever Haku and Naruto are fighting because you want to see it, and that's where all the money goes. And then we get some mouth movement still frames for some other parts, which is just part of it. I love it. I think it's a part of anime culture, quotations around that.
Well, one
Of
thing.
just like the limitations of the time and how much it costs and stuff like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Well, what I was going to say was for anyone listening who is like newer to Naruto, I'm kind of curious what you might think about the animation style because it loses nothing for me as far as like the story and kind of even the action of what's happening. But I'm trying to think back to the first time I watched Trigun because that was the first. Well, DBZ was the first thing, but I feel like that's just a different ball game when it comes to anime in a certain sense. But um, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder what people think or if they're really noticing like those still frames versus like where like you're saying they spent the more money and stuff like that. But I love it too.
Yeah, it doesn't lose it for me either because most of the time I don't need a lot of movement for dialogue.
Hmm.
and we're watching in sub, so
yeah,
sometimes the lack of movement is good,
kind of helpful.
just because, yeah, just because we can look down and just read. Um, but I did want to bring up at the end of the fight, we see, well, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So we see Sasuke taking on Haku by himself, and then we see Naruto join, and in old Naruto fashion comes in with the most amount of drama and and the least amount of forethought. So I absolutely just love that he shows up and everybody's like, holy shit, like he's about to come here and like mess him up. And then he just walks inside the ice mirrors and he's like, I'm here to help you.
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought
With
that was
his,
great.
I mentioned, his two big entrances or whatever, but I made a note and I was like, Naruto's a freaking goofball with that second entrance. Like, why would you come in and just like, I know in the soundtrack was the drums or whatever,
Mm.
but it was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you have an opportunity to like really be a game changer for this fight, and then they go to episode 14 and Kakashi calls it. He's like, Naruto, you idiot,
Yes.
like, what are you doing, man? But what a goofball. I think it's funny too in their little, soliloquies, if we want to be
Mm.
fancy about it, but they just teach each other as they go through the
Yeah.
entire fight, like it's like they're explaining it to us, but they're also teaching each other, both sides too. Like Haku's, explaining stuff to Sasuke and Naruto, and Zabuza's explaining stuff to Sakura at times, and it's really cool to see how they do that. But yeah, it was that entrance, man. I was just, I don't
Yeah.
know.
He is still Naruto.
It's very relatable. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
they all have relatable moments, things that I relate to at least, where especially with it being sort of a coming of age story, it makes me think back to times where I was like just being a dumb kid and, might have been somewhat talented or good at things, but still just like goofball status, like we've all been there. I love it.
For sure. For sure. Um, we see some, cool development of like I said, of Sasuke's Sharingan, and before that of his timing and um attention to detail. I think that that's something that is a theme that we'll see and continue to see, that the difference between these fights is a lot of attention to detail, and who can kind of take that one up on the other one. And I think that lends to a little bit of mistrust for Z, for
Mm.
how he how he
Absolutely.
expects no one to die.
I literally made a note for episode 18 at the beginning. Damn, trust issues again.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
that
it's just, yeah. I don't know. I just, after all of these 19 episodes, I'm not fully convinced. I'll just
yeah.
say that. For
I will say, you kind of mentioned this before, but I feel like Zabuza's gonna come back in some way. I'm not convinced that he's like Gone Girl. I don't know.
Yeah, I I made a note. I said I don't think Haku's gonna die for real, and then I put Sasuke's not dead either, and I put Zabuza for sure is not dead. So I don't know. I just I don't know. I feel like at this point, if it happens, I'm just be like, cool.
My
We
fault.
got more of these people. I really do like Haku. I
Yeah.
love just the honor that he brings to the fight. And that's one of the things that I love the most about this show. If I'm being honest, because I'm not predisposed to anime in general. Yes, it's new for me, but even this separate culture of honor and the way that they smack talk and the way that they just dialogue with each other is so new to me. You know, um, like for example, like when at the end when Naruto is, able to kill Haku, and he's just like, listen, I'm useless at this point, just kill me. And I'm like, I've never heard that in any other show before. Like, that's so unique to me, but it's part of that like honor that they really value in Japan. And I could feel that through this cartoon, and I really appreciated that.
That
Especially even at the end when Naruto is like so tilted that Haku's being dishonored. I was just like, yeah, like speak up for that. That's amazing that he would, stand his ground. And like, I just love the writing of this show. And I'm 19 episodes in.
yeah,
It's
That
so
makes
good.
me so happy.
I was gonna say when he
Like-
first is telling Naruto that he was just a weapon and like he's useless now, that's when the emotions started welling up and just got like worse and worse until like the end of episode 19. And I was like, dude, I'm spent. Like, I'm glad we're not watching any more of this because I don't know if my heart could take it. Because I'm also a sucker for any like romance aspect of anything. I can admit that now, but I mean, when Sakura's like crying over Sasuke, I was like, "There's one tear." And then when Naruto's making his spiel and Zabuza turns around, and he's got his, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's over. It's over.
Yep.
Yeah,
Gotta quit.
it was-
Quit now."
that's that talk no jutsu, bro. That's exactly what that is. Naruto pulls on the heartstrings and makes everyone cry.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a quick equipment question just to get us
Yeah.
off track from the emotional side? Okay, this is like going all the way back to Final Fantasy VII for me, where Cloud Strife has like this huge ass sword. I mean, it's enormous. It's like a foot wide at least. And like Zabuza has that, and I think somebody else had one, or a couple of those like thugs had them too. Are those supposed to be really light steel, or are they just incredibly freaking strong? Like, I've always wondered that for probably like 25 years now.
I don't know is the answer.
Okay.
But let's talk about this a bit. So evidently people weigh nothing in this show because 1 millimeter or 1 millisecond
Yeah.
and Sasuke's picked up Naruto and moved him. 1 millisecond. Kakashi's moved himself in a dead Haku and no sweat off his back. Like he's just like, yeah, all right, let me lay you down right here. And you see at the end, whenever Kakashi, at the end of this arc, whenever Kakashi stabs the right arm of Zabuza and disables both arms, that sword goes flying and goes across the bridge. And that, I would be more, if I had to guess, I would be more inclined to say that that sword is heavy and everyone is extremely
strong.
Yeah. But there's no like, to my knowledge, like there's no like, here's how much it weighs. Here's how much. Yeah. So, but yeah, everyone is. That was one of my notes, was that everyone weighs like one feather.
I mean, I
They're
feel
able to
like
move them
everything's
so easy.
I feel like everything's pretty exaggerated though. I mean,
Yeah,
at one point when Naruto's like, "Oh, that everyone left me behind," and he's just like, putting Tarzan to shame in the trees. It was like, I don't feel like that's realistic, either. But seeing a sword fly across the bridge, I was like, it almost just felt like part of the culture of the show.
yeah.
But yeah, everything.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the same thing. Like everything just seems like disproportionate to our reality, but it makes sense because everything is exaggerated.
Yeah, it's like, it's one of the like 5 pieces of good storytelling that is required, that I learned about back in school. And one of those is suspension of disbelief. And part of that with Naruto is that you have to have a pretty heavy, for basically all anime. Obviously you can get into some slice of life anime or some action anime that stays really true to what would be realistic. But for the large majority of anime, and I would say this is probably where people get hung up the most, is that suspension of disbelief. You have to be on board for all of it. You have to accept all of it as it comes because and basically just trust that good storytelling is going to prevail there. Because you are asked a lot. You're asked a lot whenever Naruto's skipping through a forest on each branch and it's no problem, and he's flying through it with no problem. And then turns around, sees a hog out the corner of his eye, and he just, I got to go back and save these people. Does it, and you're like, hell yeah, that's great. I love every minute of that. But if you get hung up there, you're taking yourself out of the world, and as a byproduct, you're basically rejecting the story. Just meaning that Kishimoto is telling a story with its own set of rules in this world and what is acceptable and what's not, and as far as like their limitations and and he's the decider of that. So if you're getting hung up, I'm not saying either of you are, but if you're getting hung up on the logistics of it, I would borderline say that that's not the point of it. That the point would be that their abilities allow them to do that. So you're going to be asked a lot of your suspension of disbelief in this series. But I know you guys are on board for that. Anybody watching, listening, I know you're on board for that. But I do think that they do a good job of staying true to once something is set and built in the world, that's the way it is. And it's not conveniently changed to cheapen the story. And if you, the listener, watcher, have an example of where he is in Kishimoto crosses over himself, I would love to hear it. Only because I can't think of one. But I think that the exaggeration is in my opinion necessary. I don't think that we can have Naruto with visible red chakra just like engulfing him and he changes form so much. I don't think we can have that in the same world without the exaggeration of strength and what people can and can't do with like weaving hand signs and use of chakra and stuff like that. I think that those would contradict. So I mean, obviously dig it. I think that whenever Naruto goes into that like semi like demon fox state, that I mean, I was like, let's go. Let's get him. And I knew that he wouldn't kill Haku, and I still was like, get his ass.
It's a cool moment. I was going to ask you too, Logan, because you probably saw that part years and years ago. What was it like for you, or can you remember what it was like the first time that you thought Sasuke might be dead? Or had you seen enough, I guess, literature or pictures or stuff to where you knew that he wasn't going to like die this early?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have a really good friend of mine that introduced me to Naruto right whenever it came out on Cartoon Network. So I'm watching dub the first time, obviously. That was the literal only option at the time. And it was great. And I still think the dub holds. Like I am a person that like if somebody wants to watch anime and dub, like why would that bother me?
Believe it. Just get ready for a lot of believe.
Yeah, there's a lot of cheese in there. But yeah, each your own. Like if you are watching this along with us and you're watching in dub, like keep going. Do whatever is best for you. But to answer your question, I was introduced to Naruto probably around now, episode 19, maybe 15 to 19, was one of the first episodes I ever watched. And Cartoon Network just like happened to be doing a Naruto marathon like right after that. So I was with my friend Connor and we were at his grandmother's house after we went to the pool, and we watched Naruto like literally until it just went off TV. And that's how I caught up. It just like because this is back in the day that like obviously there's like 2005, 6 maybe. There's no streaming. Like we just looked at the TV guide and was like, oh my gosh, it's coming on. So we made sure to like ask our parents that we could be somewhere to like watch it. Whenever episode 1 aired and they started the marathon. And that was how I watched it. I just binged with Connor and his younger brother Pierce, and got up to probably about, I think it was probably the first season. I think it probably was like a marathon of the first season. But did I think Sasuke died? Sasuke was my favorite character and is still tied. I don't know if I really have a favorite at this point, but there's this upper echelon of characters that I just absolutely adore. And from the time I was first introduced to this, I loved that character. I thought that he was great. Just the coolness. I just was such a sucker for it, man.
You liked his
Like,
khaki shorts too?
I thought that shirt was sweet. Like I was like, I don't know how I would look with like a chimney around my neck, but like that's what I want. And I didn't want to believe. And even now, like if I'm watching something and like Game of Thrones, like completely different type of show, but each time that a character would die in that show, I would be like, no, no way, no way. Like in first season, like I'm sorry if this is a spoiler, it's been over a decade. Whenever Ned Stark is killed, I was like, nah, no, like it's not like he's coming back. Like I am totally, and it might honestly be from watching Naruto. I was Zach in the moment of I don't. I think that they're gonna write a way around this to say just kidding, and here he is. He's back. So I remember still just being like, there's no way. But I also was resolved in that like 40 minutes later. Like even
Oh
then,
yeah,
like I
that's
didn't
true.
have to wait any time to find out that he still lived. So didn't fool me, didn't get me.
He's just a clone anyway. Everyone's clone.
Just a clone. Everything's a clone. Yeah. Interesting. I really enjoy this arc. I think that the undertones of the arc of loyalty and how both sides can, they're the same. Haku even says it at the beginning of their fight. We are the same. We are only, like, basically, this is a huge paraphrasing. We are the same. Our goals are the same, but we are going to clash because we're on opposite sides, just because of the circumstance from where we come from and how this, what you need is this bridge to be built, and what I need is it not to be.
Yeah.
And but besides that, they're the same. And I think you see that to the end with Haku. I think that you see that his loyalty is number one and Naruto's loyalty is number one. And even to Haku to a point. There's obviously the time that he stands up to Zabuza and says, like, how are you going to let Gato like degrade him, basically? And yeah, I mean, even now, I don't know how many times I watch this. Even now, when Zabuza turns, and I know he's going to have tears in his eyes, I'm like, dude, did a number on him.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
But it was cool to see, you know, it was cool to see, like, even like so far, he's the coldest person we've met, but he still has a heart. There's something there where even though he's a shinobi and he's trained to be emotionless, not attached, you know, he's putting on a good front of like, you know, Haku means nothing to me, you know, but at the end of the day, they're human, you know, they have hearts, like they have emotions. And for Naruto, freaking Naruto, to be able to pull that out of Zabuza, I just thought, you know, aside from the battle, that was such a cool moment of honoring Haku and the sacrifice that he made for the one person that he found precious, right? Like, you know, and say what you will, and Naruto even says it, like, why would you put your faith in this, you know, piece of trash or whatever? I don't even remember what it was, but it was just, you know, it was neat to be able to see the full circle honoring moment that, you know, they provided for that. And even at the end, right, whenever, you know, Haku's being degraded and Naruto's calling out and, you know, not having it, what did they do in the writing? They brought the snow back and just honored Haku in that moment. And I was just like, hell yeah. This is
snow like my tears.
It was such a good touch, man.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just can't, I don't know. You don't have that in a lot of shows. Like, it's just if I could put a word to that moment, it would be perfect.
That's
Like,
great. I think that I love that you feel that way.
yeah. But
So go ahead.
conversely, Gato is not dead. I'm calling it.
So
Rex-
I'm going to kind of shatter that a little bit.
Okay.
So in the manga, I just happened to look again. Anytime that something happens that I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know why, but anytime that something like interesting happens that may seem a little nonchalant or whatever, I want to see how it happened in the manga to see if they changed it. And I think that this is a byproduct of being TVY7. I think it was TVY7. So
Which
in
is
the manga,
insane still, by the way.
oh
That
yeah, I
it's
completely
Y7.
agree.
Good grief.
Well,
And I might be wrong on that. I think it's Y7 though.
yeah.
whenever I was watching, because I wanted to make sure, because we mentioned it last episode, and when the Viz Media logo comes up or whatever it is at the beginning, and it gives the rating, it looks like a different rating than we would get in America, and it says TV older teen, which
Oh, okay.
to me is like 17, 18,
Yeah.
19, because of all the blood and stuff. I couldn't see that being approved for 7-year-olds. I don't know, but
Yeah.
maybe it was.
And I'm basing off of my memory from like Cartoon Network.
Right.
And I may be wrong. It may be the one above Y7. But in back to my story, in the manga, Zabuza chops off his head with that kunai in his mouth. Gato's head. And he goes flying. And then they had to change it. And he kicks him off into the water. But Gato is gone. I'll go ahead and answer that. We're not gonna see, we're not gonna hear from Gato.
I don't
again.
even believe you, bro. I don't even
Yeah,
believe
that's
you.
a great point. He was a clone too. Also, Zabuza with his arms not working, like that was such a darkly comedic thing to happen in the midst of all the other stuff that was going on at that point. Like I couldn't help but like and then go back to crying because I was like, this is ridiculous what's happening right now. It wasn't one of those like we were talking about earlier that like took me out of the world. It just that would have taken me out of any moment in any show in any medium. I was just like, his arms ain't working and they're just kind of dangling and flailing, and that's funny.
Yeah, we'll see this more. The only reason I'm bringing this up
More
is because
dangly
everybody,
arms?
no, well, kind of everybody knows about the Naruto run. It got really like famous in meme culture a little bit. And there was that Naruto run. Do you guys remember there was like that Facebook event that ended up becoming like a thing where it was like we're gonna
Rushing
storm
Area
area
51.
yeah, we're gonna storm Area 51, all Naruto running with our arms flailing behind our back. So the idea is that they're running so fast that it is easier for them to just let their arms just fly behind them than it would be to like pump, which in actual, this is that suspension of disbelief because I'm gonna wait for the camera to get to me. Like in actual running, this motion helps your legs move. So to do this is wild because it doesn't make sense. And so whenever you do it in like real life, it's the most ridiculous run because it is harder than actually like pumping. Good. Yeah. And I think that it's really interesting too because whenever Naruto enters the like ice mirror like Coliseum or whatever, and then Sasuke is like, hey, run out of here, and then I'm gonna figure this out, attack from the outside. And it shows Naruto running, and he's like running as fast as he can. He's like just like if you're not watching right now, what I'm doing is basically drumming with my hands. And he's going as fast as he can, and he's barely moving. And then the next minute, he's moving a full body with no issue at all. Just think that dynamic is really funny because of how it just plays to the story well for that time.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Can we talk a second about, I mentioned it before, but can we talk for a second about the smack talk in this show?
Yeah, give us some specifics.
So one of my favorite quotes from this chunk of episodes, Kakashi's, going back and forth with Zabuza. And my man Kakashi looks at Zabuza and says, those that have a dream need to have a future. And that you do not have. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's
like,
cold, bro.
that's so cold. So cold. And it's like, it's not just like, yo, your mama's so fat, I'm a, chop your head off.
I'm gonna beat your ass.
Right. It was like, it was an elegant way to say, hey, I'm about to kill you, and it, all of them have this certain way of like, it's not just like a stab or, just some dumb little comment. It's like, yo, that was harsh, in the most elegant way you could say it.
If
Oh,
I
man.
was ever on WWE, I would just be quoting Kakashi like the whole time, and people would be like, "Oh my god, where's he get this stuff from?"
I love that we are getting to an age now that professional players are the same as us, and well, me maybe, and grew up with this and still feel very passionate about it. And so, like Jamal Williams, I think it's Jamal Williams, running back for the Detroit Lions, the biggest nerd in the league, bro. And I love it. I couldn't get enough of it. Literally, him, and then there's a fighter who wears Naruto stuff all the time and knows all the hand signs. And he took an interview and was like, "I'm not making these up. I trained these. Like I know what signs I'm weaving." And I respect that so much that we're seeing in like actual mainstream media that they're like, yeah, I love anime. You're keeping me from watching anime. Please stop. Like, I think that that's so cool and funny that the dynamic from like I'm in middle school and trying to hide this from all my friends because I was like a closet fan and didn't want anyone to know because I didn't want to be ridiculed. And I was also playing sports and that did not mesh well at the time. And now I would be willing to bet high schools across the nation are have students that are playing sports that also love anime. And that just I feel like that just didn't happen when we were in school.
Yeah, true. I've mentioned our podcast to a couple of my students, and I teach music lessons, so they're all the way from like, elementary school up through adults and stuff. But I've mentioned it to a couple students who I think are in high school ish, maybe middle school. But anyway, they're like, yeah, we know Naruto, or they'll happen to have a shirt on, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this podcast. And then I don't know, I don't feel like a nerd, but I feel like it's a weird kind of level playing field, almost like what you're saying, where it's so accessible to everybody now. And what was the word I'm looking for? It's like people don't look down on each other for liking it as much now, I guess, as when we were growing up.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that it's like you said, accessibility. Like now you can get it. I mean, you can watch Naruto. To my knowledge, this is it: Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll. I think Funimation as well. I've not had that in forever. And then and that's it. 4 mediums that you can go watch and stream every single episode of at least original Naruto. Shippuden's only on Crunchyroll, Funimation, and Hulu. Netflix doesn't have it. But still, like the accessibility to watch that at any time, as opposed to watching it only on Cartoon Network or Adult Swim at the time. And I think it got picked up by Disney XD kind of at the end of Shippuden's dub run here in America. But yeah, you had to seek it out, and seeking it out was a bigger choice and commitment then than it is now. And I'm not trying to demean anybody now. I love how popular it is. I just think that was maybe the difference maker, that you, because it was something you had to seek out, it was much more niche, and because of that it was not understood by people, and because of that people got ridiculed for it.
It's kind of like D&D now is like that, because I know a ton more people who play Dungeons and Dragons on like a weekly basis with a set group of people from all walks of life, where when I was in middle school, high school, like people only whispered about it. Like
Yeah.
it was hard to find people who actually even did it, I guess, where at the school where I grew up.
What was it like going to school in the 60s?
So
Asher, for everybody who doesn't know, is 75.
here's the thing. I walked uphill to school, back from school, to the store. There were no cars. There was no gasoline or electricity. So
Did you realize in this in the 70s? That's amazing. 1870s?
60s, 70s,
Oh,
18.
okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Sorry. So
Yeah,
Z was
Zach,
about
you
to say
go.
something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mentioned this, behind the scenes last time we kind of talked after last episode and off the off the record or whatever, and this kind of watching this now, and even some other things that are relevant to this conversation from my high school days to now. um Even like middle school, I was a fan of like manga. I loved Pokemon since day one. um I remember going to the store the day that Blue and Red came out, and it was like from that point on I was fully sold on Pokemon. But you know for for this specific thing, I was in high school, and I just remember seeing a group of kids with the headbands on with the metal plates, from different villages or whatever. And I was one of those kind of weird people that didn't really have like a clique or like a set group of people. Like you couldn't identify me as a redneck or whatever you want to classify anybody in any school or whatever. And but I did play football. So I was like, semi popular or whatever. And I just remember seeing those people walk through the hallways and like them getting made fun of. And it wasn't something I actively like spoke up against because I didn't really fully understand it. I too was like, oh, that's a little weird. Why would you wear that to school? But you know, I just mentioned last time like how upset that makes me because they were experiencing one of the coolest shows in the world at a time where no one even paid attention to it at all. And how cool that experience was for them. And like they're like, screw it, like this story is so good, I don't care, like I'll get made fun of for it. And it was just, I think it goes back to what you were saying, Logan, of the accessibility of it. Like it wasn't something that I necessarily would have rented from Blockbuster back in the day, or like even torrented, and downloaded illegally. Like I never thought through that. And I didn't watch a ton of Cartoon Network either. Like I was more, on Nickelodeon or stuff. So I wasn't even like part of that. And
Yeah.
honestly, like Toonami came on so late, but the first one that came on was Dragon Ball every time. Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, I was so tired, like I never even like stayed up any later. But if Naruto came on or whatever, um, I wouldn't have even been awake. But yeah, I just want to, if you're listening to this and you happen to know me from high school, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, because you were watching a pretty cool show. And I hope more and more people, the older we get, and just as this podcast progresses, I hope more and more people are able to appreciate the storyline. And Logan, you mentioned Jamal Williams, and I went and looked up because I shared a reel in our group text. um and he's like, when they introduce all the players at the beginning of the game and they're like telling you where they're from, kind of like that classic Key and Peele sketch where they're like, saying,
The
this is
most
who I am.
ridiculous names, man.
Oh yeah, crazy. Well, I'm sitting here watching it because they captioned it, and he says, "Hey, I'm Jamal Williams, first swag Kazakage, leader of the hidden village of Denver." And he's like, green screened, and you see the game behind him, and he's just like wide eyed with his headband on. I'm just like, dude, I love that. Like, just be yourself. Like, who cares what
Yes.
other people think? Like, this show is so good And if you don't give it a shot because you're afraid of what other people think, like you're just missing out. And I feel like the older America gets, and whatever, we're learning that more and more of like, if you appreciate it, appreciate it. Like, who cares?
We're in the early stages of this podcast, so I do not care to say this right now. That is our clip right there that we need to post. And I completely agree. I think that now we're getting to a spot, and have been at this spot for a few years maybe, that it's like, be yourself. At the end of the day, does it really matter? And it may come with just like us growing up that it feels like it's happening everywhere, but it does feel like that openness to like, yo, if you like this, like just like it. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And what's stopping you? And if it's someone else, like that shouldn't matter. Like it just shouldn't matter if you're interested in something, but and someone else is telling you, well, that anime's lame. You shouldn't like that. Like that's just, I think that that's ignorant at this point. I think that's people not giving it a shot for outside reasons. I get the argument. Like my wife, like she really just does not enjoy animation at all. It is a pulling of teeth to get her to watch anything animated. And it's such a disappointment because I am so drastically the other way. I believe that I probably could watch only animated things 99% of the time. And when I'm watching something alone, it is that way. And I don't know if it'd be that way if she was as into it as I am. But so I see that argument and I hear that, but to take away from the story just because you don't like the medium it's in is not valid to me. I think that the storytelling is still great the way that you receive it, whether it be from manga or from the anime, same story. And I think that it's great. I think that it's great that we're seeing it everywhere and how big it's gotten. And even just from like, I remember in 2016, Hypeland did a collaboration with Naruto. And that was the first time our good friend Lance Asher, that's a little callback to our old podcast. But our good friend Lance Asher that we all know and love, was right along with me in loving Naruto, and I maybe have talked about it on a previous episode, but we finished it together. We finished Shippuden we finished the last chapter of Shippuden when it came out in America, and we both were like sobbing, and we knew it was going to be the last one, and these were only coming out once a month, so like we knew for a whole month that this was going to be the last time we read through it. So tough. And then whenever the anime came out, we knew it was going to be the last one, and it was still so tough. But good on Lance, because he in middle school, like I said, I was closeted. I like definitely did not want anyone to know. Didn't want, like, my siblings. I have two older brothers, two younger sisters, and they still both gave me just as much ridicule as my two older brothers about liking Naruto, which is ridiculous to me. But that kept me from letting anyone else know. So I'd be at school, and then Lance would be there with other people that love Naruto, wearing their headbands like a nerd, and I'd be like, nerd, that dude's a nerd. And then I'd go home and watch it myself.
That's amazing.
That's so I didn't good. Outwardly like bully him about it, but I definitely like use that. But probably a little worse. I definitely would be like, yeah, I'm not going to stick up for them. Like, I definitely do not want to fall victim to that. If you're watching, or if you know me in person, you definitely know I'm short. I'm small. I'm not threatening and menacing. I use my words. I like to instigate and stir the pot. And even back in middle school, I knew that. And so I knew that telling this part of my life would allow me to not instigate as much. So I made that decision. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. Lance made his decision, and look at the two of us. He's far more happy and content with what. And not that I'm not, but like, I mean, if you know Lance or met Lance, no one is more content with themselves than Lance Asher.
That's so true.
Adore him.
It's what Naruto can do for you.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say, I work with Lance, and this is just, relevant to what you were saying. This happened probably 4 or 5 months ago, but someone came in and he was wearing a Naruto shirt. And he was super proud of it when he
Wait,
walked in that morning.
is it black and Naruto's like eating? It's a black t-shirt and Naruto's eating ramen.
I can't remember for sure. He's got
It
2 or 3.
well, I've given him some Naruto apparel,
Right?
and last year we got each other the same shirt
That's amazing.
on
Well,
accident.
all that to say, someone came in there like, "Are you wearing a freaking Naruto shirt?" And he said, "Before you say anything, just know I don't care what your opinion is. You're not going to change my mind. Naruto is a part of my heart, and that's how it is. So you can say what you want to, but I don't care."
That
I
was
just
that was
like,
Lance in middle school, bro.
let's go, Lance. Like, stand up for that. And I will
love
say,
that.
I am the opposite of Logan. I am a very large man, and I drive a Toyota Prius. So if you want to make fun of anything, I really don't care. Like, at this point, I look like Mr. Incredible on the road. Like, just is what it is. But
I guess you can just make fun of me for getting so emotional about the show, because when Sakura is sobbing, I'm sobbing, and really anybody. When the bridge builder was like, what did he say? I wrote it down too. You don't
said,
need to
like,
be brave on my account. I was like,
yeah.
sweet old man.
Yeah. So oh my gosh. I honestly can't remember. I hate that I'm this person. I just don't like it. But I can't remember if this is only in the manga or if he says it in the anime as well. But right after that, he's like, don't hold back for me, basically.
Right.
Um, and then Sakura is like, I know the answers to the questions, and I know that Rule 25 is to not show emotion. And then she continues to sob, and it's like this huge count. And we see this throughout the world, like this one way of being taught how to be a shinobi, and the actual practice of being a shinobi. And you even hear it from Kakashi at the beginning of the series that he says, people who says ninja that break what does he say? Help me out. It's something along the lines of ninja that break code are scum, but ninja that turn their back on their comrades are worse.
Yeah.
And you see that throughout. There's a dichotomy between being the right type of shinobi and then being the right, also with quotations, right kind of shinobi. Same words, very different in practice. Just, and we see this across the board now with Zabuza and Haku, how they perceive the correct way to be a shinobi, versus the way that Sasuke sees how to be a shinobi, the way that Kakashi sees how to be a shinobi, Sakura, Naruto, they all see it different, and they all approach it differently. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I don't know.
I like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
That kind of gives a lot of, again, like things to relate to, which just takes me back to like why the show is so freaking good. Is that a lot of people would probably see it a little bit, when I say it, I mean like life in general, I guess, because I'm relating it to to real life, of course, which I always do with any medium. But like Zabuza is seeing it as very cold and very black and white, and a lot of people see life that way and they live that way, and it's not necessarily a bad thing until he's putting into practice like creating a weapon out of this kid. But his aim is, I don't know necessarily like what his overall goal was, and we don't have to get into that detail necessarily, but in his mind it was a good goal that he had to like make sacrifices for and do some things in a way that Kakashi would say like that's not good. And then for Kakashi to still be so kind to him at the end of the bridge fight was just, it's too much. Too much.
And I think we can totally talk about that in detail. So you see a few things. You see, like, Zabuza at one point says there's no good shinobi that's ever going to come out of a peace-obsessed village like the Hidden Village in the Leaves. Because the culture between the village hidden in the leaves and the hidden mist village are completely different. I mean, the graduation exam. Look at the graduation exam in the Hidden Village of the Leaves, and then look at the graduation exam of the Hidden Mist that we've been told about, where Zabuza had to kill his teammates, the
Oh
people
yeah,
that
he
he
had to
grown up
murder.
with.
Oof.
That is already two opposite ends of the spectrum between those two villages. And then we have, like you said, the kindness. I think that that's always down in there with the shinobi, but it's the way that they're brought up and trained, and that's different. Um, here's my one time that I'm gonna lose my train of thought. I can feel it coming. What did you just say about Zabuza?
Oh, his I was talking about like his ultimate goal was not
Oh,
really
his goal.
clear to me.
Yeah. So, and I can shed light on that just for anybody watching, listening. It might get talked about a little bit down the road. I don't think so. Just like what's happening in the Hidden Village of the Mist, or what has happened right before now in the Hidden Village of the Mist. And I'm probably saying that village name wrong. Whatever. So Zabuza killed the Mizukage, which is the um Hokage, but of their land.
Oh, okay.
So their leader, and he had killed them, or killed him, and then was unable to like instate a new command, a new form of command. So in turn, he had just assassinated the leader and then had to leave because no one else uh stuck with them or what. And
They did mention that
I'm
his
only
allies kind of dwindled. I think Kakashi talked about that in these
yeah.
episodes. Yeah.
And they just really briefly allude to it, like how in the bingo book that he was written, as soon as it happened, he was written, and it was written about what had happened, so that whenever a ninja goes to read that and they understand what had happened, and why he was in the bingo book, and how dangerous Zabuza is. To take down a Mizukage is no easy feat at all. And I think it's a testament to not only Zabuza's strength, but also Kakashi's, because at the end of the day, I mean, Kakashi didn't even pull out all the stops here. So I think that I'm afraid to reveal too much, but at the end of the day, his goal was, he was in a bad spot where he had to take contracts with Gato because he had no other allies, no other way to make money, no other way to escape and be protected, because he had just assassinated the leader and then had to flee. And was trying to get back there. And there's some flashbacks between Haku and Zabuza that we see that he says, like, as of tonight, I have to leave, and don't worry, we will be back. And that was his plan, was to, reinstate the old ways of the Hidden Mist village, and they didn't want peace. They wanted it to be the way that it was. So as the world continues to build and we learn more about it, we'll get more information as far as like the village itself, but I don't want to promise you any more information pertinent to Zabuza and Haku.
True.
I did think it was interesting, just kind of piggybacking off that, when the battle between Kakashi and Zabuza quite over, and Naruto was just now picking up the pieces of, like, oh gosh, like, I'm gonna go over to this side of the fight. And then Gato and his crew come in. He says, like, well, now that I'm unemployed, like, looks like we're allies or whatever. And Kakashi's just like, yeah, like,
because it was a job. Like, it was
right,
like just a job for Zabuza and Haku.
right. And that was such a shock to me, because I'm so, like, predisposed to, grudges, and, like, this is all personal. But to him, it was just, I was getting money to kill you. And now that I'm not, okay, I'll help you take out this whole crew of people, It's just, it was another cool detail that I just, I'm a big fan of everything about
With
this
my
show.
arms dangling too.
Right.
But I mean, that really did show like so much honor really on both sides. It's like and mutual respect, which was really cool. But to me, that it was kind of just like a stark contrast to, like, hey, 3 minutes ago we were getting down and dirty, not in a sexy jutsu way, but in a violent jutsu way. right?
But I mean, it sets up the ending well too. Of like, okay, he says, Logan, you just mentioned this, but at the end, he says like, Kakashi, can you do me a favor? Can you just take me over to him? And like getting that little understanding of like this was just a job. I'm not actually mad at you. I was just getting paid to do this, and I need that money. Um, it was like not totally unbelievable, paired well with the what we were talking about earlier about like this is just a show that has its own set of rules. But for that specific moment, I was like, man, that's cool that you can just set aside like you don't actually have a personal vendetta against me. Like you were just doing a job. But yeah, I could see you're hurting and I have a bigger heart than taking this personally. And we're not going to kill each other. You're about to die anyway, so I'm just going to take you over to your friend that you now discovered was a friend all along and not just a tool. Um, I thought that was a super cool moment for Kakashi and Zabuza, honestly.
Yeah. So we've covered most of the arc here. I think that next, looking forward, we've got 7 episodes to finish out the season. We're going to start the tuning exam. We're going to learn about that. I know that maybe Asher a bit, but I know that Zach is going to be brand new to this, and we're getting into some of the cream of the crop here of Naruto. Looking forward into season 2 because next week we will cover the next 6 episodes, which will finish out season 1, like I said, and then going into season 2, we get a lot of character introductions. We get a lot of series favorites that are coming our way.
But they're not number 3 Sakura. So
that's right. That's right. Exciting stuff. I don't want to say too much about it. Obviously, we'll be talking about it here in just a week. If you are watching along with us, please, episodes 20 through 26, that's the ones we're going to be on. Watch before and let us know what you think. And it sounds like I'm wrapping it up. I'm not. I'm just trying to think forward about what we're
if you were,
about to do.
I was gonna add, if you're watching along with us, don't turn away. Right?
Ooh.
Remember?
I was gonna add journey with us across the great Naruto bridge.
Oh,
there you go.
There's a little foreshadowing for you. I could see that making a comeback in the future.
And I was also going to say, well, it's a question without an answer, but now I'm just quoting parts that I really wanted to quote from the episodes that don't have anything to do with anything.
All right, this will be our last episode. Yeah, so we are actually I'm gonna take that back. We are actually gonna be skipping episode 26. Where it's a filler episode. It's not a bad episode. It's just not really anything crazy. It's not anything that.
When you say filler, by the way, it's like stuff that's not pertinent to the story. So
it's
that's
stuff
why
that is
we're
not
skipping.
Yeah, it's stuff that's not in the manga.
Side quest.
Yeah. So these are the episodes that they wanted to fill some time so that they didn't catch up too much. These are money makers for them because it still showed in prime time, just the same. I'm not sure if season 1 aired in prime time. I don't know about that, but Naruto and then Naruto Shippuden and then Boruto. I think I may have told you guys this off air, but that aired in prime time until just last year. They took Boruto out of prime time, and I would say that once Boruto gets back into manga canon, it will probably go back into primetime in Japan, but that's just a guess. So with that being said, episode 26, we're not going to be watching it. You're more than welcome to watch it. Like I said, it's a good episode. It's fine. It's just because it's not in the manga, we're going to be skipping it. And because it's not in the manga, they can't do anything definitive in that episode that would jeopardize the story. So 20 through 25, and then we're getting right into the thick of it the very next week. So Um, candidly speaking, where are you guys at? Is there more that you want to talk about? Do you have any more questions or points that you would like to bring up? I've run through all my stuff.
No, I didn't have any other notes that were like really really important to me, or any moments that I wanted to bring up. I'm just excited. I do remember a little bit about this next part, and then I'm in the dark after that, like going into season 2. So yeah, I love it. It's up to this point, it's already in the top, probably top 3 like anime that I've ever watched. And as far as
Haven't you
shows,
watched only 3?
no, I've
I'm just
watched a bunch more. There, and you're probably saying that because there's only 3 that I ever talk about because those are my favorites. And
Trigun,
Trigun,
Brotherhood, and this
Full Metal, yeah. Yes, Brotherhood, not OG, but yeah. But all the other ones I've watched, I have enjoyed, but they just don't. They don't hit these kinds of like story beats and snowfall and arms flailing like Naruto does. So
Yeah, we are in for it, man. I just can't wait. I every week, in behind the scenes a little bit, I feel as though I am pushing for us to do a bigger batch, which, we're covering tonight. We're covering 7 episodes, I believe.
it's 8, wasn't it?
And
12 through,
was it?
yeah, those 8 total. And it felt
Okay.
like, okay, on Netflix also, I did want to mention this in episode either 14 or 13, where it does have that 8-minute recap. If you hit skip intro, which I do because I just want to consume as much of the story as possible, it skips all the way up to like minute 14 of that episode or something.
Wow.
Maybe not that much, or maybe there were 14 minutes left is what I mean. But I was like, thank you, Netflix. I did not want to see a recap because I just watched all of these. So
Yeah, yeah. When we're binging through it, it's obviously we're gonna run into a lot of reuse because you're week to week, and I will say like the anime that I watch week to week right now, or well, some of them just went off, but I need those recaps week to week to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember what's happening, and a lot of times those recaps, I skim through them real quick to make sure they don't bring up anything from like far back. Obviously with 19 episodes in, there's nothing too far back that we're not going to remember, but sometimes they bring up some stuff that's pertinent to that episode that you've not heard or thought about in forever. So be wary of that. I use it all the time too, to skip it right through it, but they're down the line, I'm talking like hundreds of episodes down the line, there might be something, but for now you're definitely good. I think that skip intro is great. I will say, here's the rule for Team 7, here's the rule for everybody watching and wants to be a part of Team 7. We respect the animators because Zach and I are designers, and that means that we watch the intro and the outro fully one time. As many times you want, but at least one time. So each time that this intro and outro changes, that's what we're doing. We're watching all the way through because somebody worked on that and somebody busted their ass for it, and it's awesome. And then the music on top of that is even better.
I respect that so much.
That's the rule. That is the rule I hold for every anime I watch. It's the rule I tell everybody. It needs to be watched at least one time because there are some bangers out there, bro. Like season 1, part 1 of season 1 of Tokyo Ghoul is one of the coolest intros that I've ever seen, and it gets stuck in my head all the time. And that wouldn't happen if you wouldn't watch through it. So watch it, respect it, especially these old episodes. There's so
Believe
many
it.
good songs. Believe it. There's so many good songs. Like the outro, I can't help but watch the outro every single time because I love that song so much. I know I've talked about it every episode so far. And until we're out of season 1, I'll talk about it. So next week I'll bring it up again. And then the week after that, I'll tell you how sad I am that it's gone.
I literally sent you all a voice memo of me singing part of it today.
You did literally right before we got
It's
on.
in my head every day, I think.
That's how, and as it should be. So yeah, with I'm not sure if we've told our listeners, watchers, followers, whatever, about our plan, but we're planning on going through season 5. That's going to be the end of Naruto. We're going to skip 6 through 9. We did talk about this. If you've got good filler, let us know. Like good filler episodes that you suggest we watch, we will cover them. Try to let us know before we end season 5 here in a year, but but yes, we're gonna probably jump over those and get straight into Shippuden and keep the story going as the manga would dictate. Yeah, I love it. I can't wait for next week. Just as always, I just can't wait to finish season 1 just so we can get to season 2. Really,
I'm ready for it. Every piece of me is ready for it.
that's great. So okay, I'll ask this again next week once we finish season 1. But where y'all at? I know Z's saying that he loves it. But is this what you thought it'd be? Is it better than you thought it'd be? Are you glad we're doing it? Are you down for the long haul? Because this is a long haul and we are only in the beginning of it, and it is going to be a grind at some parts, not because it's not good, but because in week 52, we're going to be like, we have watched this every week for a year.
Here's my take on that. And hopefully I don't make Asher cry. So when you were talking through your story of watching it with Connor over the summer and being able to catch up and binge it on Cartoon Network, I was like, damn, I wish I had a story like that. But I'm like, yo, we're living this, because in 20 years we can be like, man, I caught up with this podcast by talking about it with my friends over a computer screen, and we shared that with the world. And I'm just like, listen, if you want to be able to have a story to tell your grandkids about Naruto, join in, because this is a team worth following along on this, because we're going to respect it. We're going to love it. We're going to, talk every piece of it and what we liked and disliked and thought was funny and not. And, why not, have a companion podcast to follow along with and be able to say you went through the entire series, with hopefully people that we can make friends with along the way. So
yeah,
I love
baby.
it.
I love that.
I'm sorry to drag this out more, but Zach, you just unlocked something in my head too. The reason that I love Trigun so much is because my brother-in-law told me about it, and I binged all 26 episodes. I actually had, if anyone can even remember this, I had a 30 gigabyte iPod that was a video iPod back in the day, 2006. Baby. And I had all those episodes on there, and I would just watch them like repeatedly. I've probably seen that anime more than anything else because it's only 26 episodes.
If you were watching the anime, or if you're watching the podcast right now, Zach, you need to speak so that you show up.
Yeah.
I have the 80 gigabyte classic right here with a little birthday message from my mother that says happy 16th birthday.
It's beautiful.
But
that is a treasure.
Yeah.
I love that you have it. You need to speak again so the camera comes back to you.
And it still works. I say that, but it's not turning on. It's been charging for like a week, so I might need to get a new battery, but this is what Asher was referring to for all those people that might not know what a iPod is.
That's old school now. That's old school.
I got a iTunes gift card, which that was like basically the only way, especially when I was a kid, that was the only way I could buy something on iTunes, because I didn't have a credit card and my parents were not gonna just like let me go buy whatever. Do you guys want to guess the movie I bought? Now this is like circa 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And it's not anime.
I have a great guess. Alpha Dog with Justin Timberlake.
Okay, I have a better guess. Snow Dogs with Cuba Gooding Jr.
All right, that's the end of the podcast. So no, it was The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler. Why did you guys not guess that?
Even better.
And I watched that thing. I've seen The Longest Yard. Even now, I could probably quote most of it. I loved that movie. And then I'm talking, like I said, the one with Adam Sandler. I'm not talking about the one from like 70s or 80s.
The old. Okay, I'll finish my story real quick. The reason I love Trigun so much, I watched it over and over. My brother-in-law loved it, introduced it to me. I tried to share Trigun with so many people in my life, and nobody wanted to watch it, which I was not sad about. I was in my 20s, just for the record. I was a fairly emotionally established, like confident person, and it didn't affect me. But I was like, I love this, and if you're not going to watch it, you're just missing out. But then Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I watched with a couple friends of mine all the way through, and this is what you've unlocked, Zach, as you were talking about that a few minutes ago. But that's what made it so great, was watching it with a couple other people and quoting it when we're just, hanging out other times. So I think that's why, Logan, these are the 3 anime that I've watched, or that's why it seems that way, because those are the ones that are the most special to me and like mean the most. And they're just good. But I feel that way about this too. And not to get too emotional, but we don't live in the same city anymore. So for us to be able to do this and like watch through it and talk about it is like the best buddy time. So
that's right.
I love it.
That's what's great about having people that can join in on the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to put too much pressure on the watcher, but like, please join in. We want to hear it. We want to know what your thoughts are, what your impressions are. If you're loving it, if you are watching this and you're not, and you're like, yeah, I'm struggling getting through it. First of all, congrats on getting episode 3 of this podcast. Secondly, talk to us about it. We want to talk about it. We can talk through those things. That I'm not trying to change your mind. I don't want to change your mind. I want you to be happy. But I do believe that Naruto is so good and is blocked from a lot of people because of misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what's up next. We'll see what's up next in Make Out Paradise. That's the book that Kakashi reads, by the way.
That's wild. That's funny. That's like is that his one vice? You don't have to actually answer this. It's a rhetorical question, but he's such a good dude. And then he's just reading Make Out Paradise. And I imagine it's one of those romance novels where Fabio's on the front with no shirt and there's just a lot of sex in those books.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I've read them. Well, not all of them.
We'll learn more about that. We'll see. There's a whole arc on that. No, just playing. But we will learn more. Okay, cool. So we've just finished 12 through 19. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us. Talk to us. Let us know. Next up is 20 through 25. Again, we're going to skip 26. You can watch it on your own if you want. We will not be reviewing it. But until then, we will see you next time. We need a little sign off here, like summoning jutsu or something like that.
You could quote Sasuke and just say, "You're such a loser."
Believe it.
But the thing is, we're not even watching the dub. We need like we need like something way more corny. We'll brainstorm.
Okay, we'll brainstorm. Yeah,
we'll let you guys know.
Get at us with that too. You're either watching this on YouTube or you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, freaking Stitcher, Google. What was our Instagram again?
Team 7 Pod.
Team 7 Pod.
Say that one more time, very clear, Zach. My fault.
Check us out on Instagram at Team 7 Pod.
That's right.
Nailed it.
Team, and then 7 is spelled out or a letter or a number?
Letter. No, number.
Okay, so it's team, the number 7, and then POD. Cool.
Correct.
See you there. Wherever you're at, we are at I can't speak right now. We might have to cut this out. Wherever you're at, we are at every other medium as well to get this out into the world. Please tell your friends, tell people that don't know about Naruto, that know about Naruto, people on the fence, people that are whoever, tell your parents. Watch it. We'll see you next time.